Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hotline League. We are back away from finals, but Mark is not back home. He's in an undisclosed location somewhere in Europe. Mark, where are you in Europe?
I'm in Portugal.
How is Portugal?
It's great.
What have you been doing?
I got in yesterday morning, my time, and I hardly slept, and I didn't really do anything. And then today I slept a lot and then didn't really do anything.
Gotcha. So you're having a great time, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was in the spa all day. I took my first Turkish bath.
Wait, really? What is that
Yeah,
like?
well, it's just like it's like a sauna, but like really, really steamy.
Yeah,
Like I couldn't even see the other side of the Turkish bath. It was like 10 feet wide maybe, and I couldn't even see the other wall. It's
yeah.
great.
It's like you're in Mistborn.
Sure.
Uh,
But I don't think it's quite as humid, humidity heat wise.
yes. Well, were you wearing any clothing?
Yeah, I was. And then someone opened it. I was in there alone. Like there was no one in the hot tubs, no one in the pools. I was totally alone. Then someone opened the door to the Turkish bath, and then I think they kind of saw that I was in there. They only saw like the shape of me, and they left. And I was like, "Yes, right, get the fuck out of my bath."
Okay. Well, either way, we are back from finals. If you guys didn't get a chance to go watch the live Hotline League, it's up on YouTube. But we had a really great time doing that with Grubhub. We really had an enjoyable time. Mark, what did you think of the live Hotline League?
I thought it was great. There was a lot of smack talk between the owners. That was really cool if you haven't seen it. And Nicole was right.
Yeah, she was the most humble on the show, and then also ended up being right. You know who else was right was I thought about this a lot over the course of the weekend, the caller, quote unquote, who got on stage and said that the lower bracket team is like heavily favored historically, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Papa Smithy should be worried because like this is the same thing that happened with 100 Thieves last year," and like there you go. Sure enough, EG comes in and just crushes it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was something that I think is worth keeping an eye on
Yes.
going forward. Like how much of an advantage are these fuckers getting? Because if this keeps up across like a bunch of other regions, like maybe there should be an advantage given to the team waiting and winners. Because people always talk about like, oh, it should be best of 7 with a game seeded in favor of the winning side team because it's not fair that they only lose once. And I never really cared about that angle. But if you're legitimately favored because of the momentum from bot side and it's like a tangible, like recordable phenomenon, then they really should give the winner some advantage.
Yeah, what do you is it really just the momentum? Like it's actually kind of crazy to me that that's a thing.
I mean, momentum. First off, anonymous gifter wants you to pull for Yelon apparently. Or
Yeah,
Ayaka,
and that
I'm
well,
not sure.
actually, Ayaka, I haven't even pulled for Ayaka. We just got 25 gifted subs from an anonymous gifter in the chat, so thank you, anonymous gifter. We'll
Like
be doing.
Skelly
We
saying
should say
dodged.
we're doing resin refresh immediately after this because it's 12:30 in the afternoon Pacific time on the West Coast. So very different time for us to be doing the show. And yeah, we're gonna see how much we can get out of Mark before he just dies. But
Really, it's
anyway,
8:30 for me. It looks like it's normal.
yeah, actually, this is a normal Hotline League time for you. It's just gonna be an abnormal resin refresh time for you.
Oh,
But
true,
anyway,
true,
sorry.
true.
Yeah, is it really just momentum? Like, why is it that, like, theoretically, the better team should be the one that's sitting up at the top?
I think in theory the better team is. I mean, sometimes people just choke early in playoffs, or whatever. I don't think EG choked early in playoffs. I think TL was better than, and then they got sent to lower. I think EG underperformed the regular season, so they got a bad seed, I guess is what you would say.
Gotcha.
Either way, momentum is definitely a real thing. It's like not really quantifiable about why you have momentum, but like going through a bunch of 3-0s and having good scrim results, like you're just going to be feeling yourself. And you already played on the stage once before. Like that's 100 Thieves first game in that environment. That's the fourth for EG. Like I think those things can matter.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was really cool. Before we continue our conversation, I do want to make sure I give a shout out to Alienware and Grubhub for sponsoring this episode, and we'll talk more about them as time goes on. But what I mean, what did you think of the like 6-0? I mean, that was crazy. They just seemed incredibly dominant, and I don't think anybody predicted that. I know like Flowers predicted 3-0 for EG on the 100 Thieves Day, but I mean, what are the takeaways in just seeing how dominant they were? And also, you know, I think it was important that we hype up EG. We talk about how good they are or whatever. I do want to just really quickly check in and see if like you feel as though TL or 100T collapsed at all or played way below their expectations or anything.
So I predict as an EG fan who predicted them to beat FlyQuest, beat C9, and beat TL. I did predict that. I don't think anyone underperformed. So like I think 100 Thieves underperformed, and I think TL underperformed. But like you can underperform and still lose. You know what I'm saying? Like your regular performance might have still lost. I think for 100 Thieves, they looked fucking terrible. Straight up. Like there was no point in those games watching from the audience where I felt like 100 Thieves might have won any of those games.
Yeah.
So like I think that they were just bad and EG shit on them. Whereas like the TL series, I don't really think TL straight underperformed. Game 1, they should have won. It was like a crazy Baron steal that gave them that. Game 2, they got Giga outdrafted. You heard Golden Glue talking about how it was a 90-10 draft. And in that game, they still got Soul and Elder, and it was like, or maybe it was Baron, but like TL could have won that game. It was close, but they were playing decent to be in such a bad draft and have the game be as close as it was. And so I felt like TL more or less played up to their potential, maybe a little under, but EG still kind of smoked them. But that felt like that was a close 3-0, whereas like the 100 Thieves 3-0 is like what you imagine a 3-0 is, where one team is just vastly better than the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, too, because I think... Who was it? Somebody had... Oh, I interviewed Soren, and Soren had said that he thought that EG would be the tougher opponent. So it was kind of funny in that, like, from the outside, there were a lot of analysts and community members, I think, who were, like, really thinking EG was the weakest, whereas if you talk to a lot of the players thought EG was potentially the strongest, and 100T might have been the weakest. And it's kind of interesting because it feels like it played out that way.
From what I heard, you know, obviously EG is not going to be scrimming TL heading into that match. They're mostly playing 100 Thieves. So 100 Thieves got to scrim both teams. And I think both teams were beating 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
In scrims. And I heard that EG was smoking 100 Thieves in scrims, which is why Empire is saying no, that's not true. I heard someone tell me that you guys were beating them in scrims, and that's partially why Danny and Jojo were so hyped.
Empire says we didn't scrim in finals.
Was it before final week?
We only scrimmed a collegiate team during that week. NA talent, man.
Did you scrim 100 Thieves before final week then and shit on them?
Well, we're waiting for Empire to reply in the Twitch chat. EG staff member. Before final week, it was like 50-50. Okay, well, whatever. Moving along.
Well, I mean, it is interesting, at least, that the scrim people were maybe exaggerating.
Yeah.
Rude to call 100 Thieves a collegiate team. Shit. I think 100 Thieves, I expected more out of them. I had sent a prediction to my producer that if everyone else had predicted 100 Thieves to flop, and then Jat was the one who kind of did it live on air, which made it awkward because I was like, wait, I said I was going to flop 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Because I did think it was going to be close. Like, I wasn't so set on my 100 Thieves prediction. And I think people kind of I think sometimes in postseason, people value the regular season a little bit too much. And that's why I predicted them over 100 Thieves, or C9 so quickly, EG over C9, because I was like, C9 sucks right now, and EG looks good, so easy call for me.
I mean, I think...
But at least the last time we saw 100 Thieves, and they were playing well against TL, that's kind of who I was expecting to show up.
I think it's fair to say that people might have over-predicted or over-emphasized regular season performance, because oftentimes I think it's fair to do that because we'll oftentimes have those teams that go and like they lose like 2 games the entire split or whatever, right? But like I mean, C9 and TL were near the top of the standings for most of the split, or at the top of the standings for most of the split, but it didn't really feel like they were ever just having like this hard stranglehold, especially as C9 started to look kind of weaker at the end and 100 Thieves started to surge and all that stuff. I do think like it is I have been annoyed, and this happens very frequently, where you'll have like an underdog story and you'll be like, whoa, this is crazy that this team won, which is, I think, how people should feel about EG. And then people are like, oh, come on, guys. EG were never as bad as you made them out to be. And, like, they were
Oh
best
God,
of
yeah.
ones and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, like, in any other year, like, no one would be surprised that EG, like, if EG had gone and just flunked out in playoffs, nobody would be talking about it. It would have been not a surprise to anybody because they occupied that, like, mid-level team. I think there were points in time in the split where we weren't even sure if they were a top 5 team because
Well, even
Go
yeah,
ahead.
even if they beat C9 and then lost to TL in the way that you're talking about, like, and let's say they got 3-1 or 3-0, like everyone would be like, "Yep, not surprised," you know. And here they are 3-0 in both those teams, and people are still being like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
cool."
I think it's such a disservice to the like actual accomplishment to try to pretend that this is not like a huge upset because it just I don't know. I don't even know did anybody have them 3-0? Did anybody have them 3-0 over TL on the prediction sheet?
Some people did, but
Okay.
some people just predict 3-0s either way. Like,
Yeah.
no shade to Captain Flowers,
No,
but
I've
Flowers,
heard
he either goes 3-2 or 3-0, and that's it.
yeah.
And so, like, if he's gonna predict someone, it's almost always gonna be a 3-0 for him.
I thought he went double 3-0 for EG. Okay. I knew he went 3-0 for them against Hunter T, but that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I think there were some random influencers who did it too. Yeah.
We'll talk about the game some more. I'm sure we'll get some calls in, but what about the rest of the weekend? Anything that this was like the first weekend back, first arena in almost 3 years. Like any other interesting stories or moments for you, Mark? Did you get out on time in Houston? Because everybody was getting delayed or stuck.
I managed to avoid the shit show that happened. Ashley left at noon, and I had made sure to book her an earlier flight. So she got out before the storm hit. I got delayed by an hour, and I had like 15 minutes to get to my international flight because I had a layover in Newark. But that worked out okay. But I didn't get giga-fucked. I got out through the rain, whereas other people got totally screwed. Did you get out?
So I was on a plane with Emily, Dash, Azale, Meteos, Broden, like a bunch of random people ended up on this plane together. And we boarded on time, and then we sat on the tarmac for like 45 minutes because there were like lightning strikes, and they didn't want the ground crew getting in danger.
The ramp or whatever.
Yeah. So we sat there for 45 minutes. So we were on that plane for a long time. It was like a 5-hour flight eventually. It felt like because of just sitting on the flight. But we did get out. But I saw so many people. Like I saw Tigris got stuck in Houston overnight, and Vulcan was tweeting that he didn't get back until like 4 a.m. and stuff. So it's just, we were able to do it. But what about the event itself? Any cool moments? I mean, it was really cool to see you guys on the analyst desk and with like the whole crowd behind you and everything.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed having the crowd behind us. I enjoyed doing the analyst desk. I enjoyed the arena. Trying to think if there's anything else I'm supposed to say. It was dope, dude. What about you? How was watching from the arena? Yeah, how was that? Yeah.
It was really cool. I mean, I think it's very funny because the arena was definitely in no way in any case full. But I don't even think that they could fill that arena unless it was located in China and it was the World Finals. Like people realize that it was something like a 90,000 person arena. And so I was really happy with the turnout. I've heard that they had more people ever watching a spring finals live, like in person. Like that's the most tickets they've ever sold for a spring finals.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
In the past they've been in smaller venues, but what I had heard was basically like there are options for choosing a venue during this time of year because of everything that's going on. Were either like tiny college basketball arena or something massive like this, and they wanted to do something bigger, and so they got the bigger one, knowing that obviously they would never sell it out. But it was I thought it was a good amount of people. It looked great on the broadcast. People losing their minds. One of my favorite things was how the crowd. So like, guys, EG did not have very many fans. Like, EG content does not do well. My content with EG does not usually do very well. Like, they just have not been able to build like a very large fan base. However, they gained so many fans over the course of this weekend. And when Tyler One came out and did the opening ceremony, and he was like, 100T fans, let me hear you. And people are like, yeah. And then he goes, EG fans, let me hear you. And the crowd went crazy. And it was one of those things that you can just never experience if things are remote or online, to see how much fandom hit the EG fans. And I know a lot of it were probably like TL and C9 fans that had just converted for the purposes of that one match, but it was just really neat to see this team that, like, I don't think very many people were excited about. I don't think they would have pushed tickets. You know, I actually do feel like if people knew it was going to be 100T EG finals, there would not be as many tickets that had been sold. But I think the Saturday games just really did a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Danny cheer, there was a thread about it, about like how loud it was. Like it did come through, I think, online, how much people were cheering for EG. Yeah. And I would expect that happened anyways. Like there's a thing in sports where, like, if you're going to lose, you want to lose to the champion, right? And like that, there is some element of that. And I also think the other element of it is obviously the NA angle. And I think it's very easy to stop cheering for your main team if your backup team is this like NA young talent group. And I think in that sense, they also have a lot of potential to hold on to these fans because, it's hard to compete in terms of raw numbers that just Cloud9 as an org have, or Bjergsen and Core, or like, you know, just bigger names. But eventually, like, it will take time. But, you know, this is Jojo and Danny's first. I mean, Danny played last year, but they got knocked out pretty quick in playoffs. You know, it wasn't like a thing. So this is their first international tournament. You know, like, if they do well, I think like they can become mainstays. And I think it just showed in the arena how quickly people were willing to make them the most popular team in the building.
Yeah. I want to see if I can pull this up. So almost 3 months ago, I think it was, I did a poll on my YouTube channel using like the community tab where I asked people who they were fans of. And I'm just stalling for time so that I can pull it up. I should have realized that I would want to do this, but I forgot that we had this conversation. And you can only put 5 options. And so the options that I put were TSM, C9, TL, 100T, and no one / a different team. And then I reran it Monday. I reran the same poll. So I'm going to put them up on screen right now. So here's the one from 2 months ago. I don't know if you can see it, Mark, but it's TSM 10%, C9 41%, TL 31%, 100T 6%, no one a different team 12%. So C9 and TL occupying the majority of this. Again, this is my YouTube channel, so like it's not. There's probably a lot of casual fans that are not accounted for in this chart, et cetera, et cetera. But
or
then
legacy fans too, yeah.
Then you look at this, like this was from a day ago, and I ran it with the same teams because I didn't want to like put EG in there. I wanted to just do like a flat comparison. TSM still exactly 10%, which is very funny to me. C9 went from 41% to 17%.
Was your first poll during the LS time?
Yes. It was during. It was like the first week of spring playoffs or spring split, I think, something around there. Then TL went from 31% to 28%. 100T actually grew in this poll from 6% to 9%. And then no one, a different team, went 12% to 36%. So it's very interesting. Right. Obviously, I wish I could do this poll with like more options and have had all the different teams there to see how EG grew. But like, and again, this is just my YouTube channel. It's not scientific. Blah 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 blah. But like, I do think that the results of this are fascinating because it's the same channel.
Here's what I would draw. One had 30K votes and one had 13K votes. I think 17K people left when LS.
maybe
left,
yeah,
and it all came out as C9. That's what it is.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because there's probably a decent amount of people that just stopped watching. I don't know. It is interesting, but
no, I think definitely, like, obviously, yeah, some C9 fans just left and like didn't become EG fans, but I think a lot of people are EG fans.
But
fans are masochists.
Yeah, you look at the comments too on the second poll, and let's see, where is it? The comments are like the top ones. Newest first. Oh, goddamn it. YouTube, come on. YouTube, come on. The
Come on,
comments
Travis.
the comments at the top are really cool to read because they're like, big TL fan here, super stoked for EG. These guys deserve it. They're young, they're brash, they're exciting. Can't wait to see how they fare at MSI versus some of the best teams in the world. Give them hell. This is only my second year watching LCS, but enjoyed definitely Jizuke on EG prior to Danny Jojo. Been amazing to watch the team's intense rise to the top and watch them go 6-0 in person was a weekend I won't forget. Was a fan of EG since they took Echo Fox's spot, since Echo Fox was my previous favorite team, and Rick said in an interview he was supported EG, so I just kind of moved on to them. It's good to see one of my favorite teams succeed. So a bunch of the top comments are all about EG. So I mean, I hope they hold on to this. Like, I did this interview with Vulcan that's on the YouTube channel. People can go watch it. And he's like, it's great to see all the EG fans. I hope you guys stick around with us if we do well, if we stop doing well in summer, because I think there's a good chance that we don't do well in summer, because maybe they just are not, they've got kind of like that G2 regular season vibe, you know, where they'll pop off in these best ofs. I don't know, but I hope folks stick around and that there's a ton that can be built around the team. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say was just like the amount of like NAA talent conversation that sprung up with their win. Like, everyone's talking about it now, you know?
Yeah.
I thought it was funny where like Kelsey Mosers had a tweet that was calling out everyone as well for like counter circle jerking, you know, like believe in NA talent. And it's like coming from all these people who didn't believe in them, casters included. And I don't know if she's listening to this, but if I was anti-EG picking them up at some point, please throw it in my face, because I would fucking love to read what I said like 6 months ago. If I was like, should have got fucking Jensen. If I was one of the Jensen double lift people, I would love to get called out.
I don't think it's funny.
It was, but
It's funny, and maybe I'm wrong. If people can find me saying like, "Oh, they should have gotten double lift and Jensen," then yeah, feel free to call it out. But I think my take was always that this was a very exciting story, that they had decided not to go with the veterans, but instead gone with the rookies. And I know I became a huge EG doubter in the middle of the regular split because they just weren't performing well, and so it's you know, like I have no regret about becoming an EG doubter, because I think it's perfectly reasonable when they were mega hyped. And I've used this stat a ton, Mark, because I think you put it in the last Hotline League, was that this team couldn't win more than 2 games in a row during the regular split. Didn't you say that was the most they could ever string together? Yeah. And so I think, like, I have no regrets about doubting them, because I feel like anybody should have doubted them at that point in time. But I don't know. I think it's exciting. I do think there will be times where Jojo and Danny do not look as good as they look this weekend, and people will be like, "Oh, they were flukes." But I mean, this doesn't ever happen. You know, it's just not a situation where in the league you have a weekend like this. It's hard to imagine too many other LCS splits where something along the lines of this occurred. So I think it's really exciting. I think it's worth embracing. I think it's really weird that people want to just be like discounting Jojo and Danny, because again, like, a lot of people thought this was not possible, that you could take an NA mid rookie and beat 2 teams that are full on imports. So I don't know.
So I said that, and Kelsey and Empire said that one of us, probably you, definitely said they were anti Jojo, Danny. I'm gonna guess. I can see the exact argument where you were like, but think of the brand power you're leaving on the floor. Like, who
that is, yes,
kids?
I definitely made that argument, and so I said this was a huge risk. I was like, you can go become a huge popular team by picking up double lift and Jensen. So this is like a huge risk that you are making, because you're leaving that on the table.
All right, Hotline League viewers, if we had this conversation in the past, you don't need to call us out right now, but like link the timestamp in the comments as well. Like, I'm definitely going to be checking it, because like, yeah, I mean, if we said it, call us out. It's just funny, you know, like I feel like people shit talk, like the shit talk is almost always between players, you know, but like, God, it'd be really funny to get that thrown in my face.
I think it's similar to what I said earlier about how acting as though this was not an upset is a disservice to folks. I feel like acting as though EG did not take a risk by making this decision over Jensen and Doublelift is doing a disservice to what EG accomplished in taking the risk, right? Like, they made the bet. It was a gamble, and it paid off. And, like, I think that that's important to recognize and to celebrate that the team was willing to do that, because guess what, guys? Everybody always wants to shit on franchising, but like I honestly think this is one of the moments where you can see the benefits of franchising, right? Like, they took a risk on these two players, and perhaps in a world where they were afraid of getting relegated this year, they might not have done it. Or in the regular season when they were struggling, maybe they would have felt compelled to make changes if they were worried about short-term results rather than long-term. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said there. I know we need to get into questions or topics, but the other things that are worth talking about, obviously C9 with Fudge Top, which I have heard and has been reported by Upcomer. I've also heard rumors that Sven is going to be playing support, which is corroborated by the fact that he's been spamming support. So, like, I've only kind of heard that through the grapevine, but the fact that then it looks like he's spamming support adds some credence to that. So I don't know. Yeah, I could see them running copy. It's I guess we'll see what ends up happening, but I'm sure people will have some C9 takes because of all that. Summit got MVP. We can have some broader discussions about finals and the event and what this meant for LCS. Anything else, Mark, that I'm forgetting about that was worth talking about from this week? Oh, MSI ping. MSI ping is like a big conversation too.
Oh, yeah. Was the MSI announcement not since last episode?
Yeah, it happened like on, I don't know, Thursday or Wednesday or something. It was relatively recently. Yeah.
I guess we have that. Yeah, that sounds like most of it. Performances this weekend. Just general. I'm sure there'll be some just general NA talent stuff.
Yeah. I think it'll be good. People in chat putting question marks, and I don't know why. Am I missing something?
Well, there's the TSM rumors. What was it? Bo and Maple or something was the rumor?
Yeah, I think it's more I haven't heard the Bo stuff. I have heard the Maple thing, so I don't know if that's more likely, but I guess we will see. Either way, have you pulled anybody yet?
No.
Okay.
I only have one monitor. It's harder to read Kelsey Moser flame your ass and look at
It's it's so convenient for Kelsey, because if EG had just busted out with this roster, I wouldn't be going on here being like, haha, Kelsey was wrong, blah blah blah. It's just yeah. I don't know. What, Mark?
No, I was just gonna say I still think it's funny. I mean, like, I will blow myself if I call things right. I did it to Nate Shot this week where I got 3 of the last best of 5s correct in a row. Not the game score, but the winner at least. So I'm like, I called it, and then I don't predict EG. I'm not going to talk about the fact I missed. Someone's got to call me on it because I'm not going to do it. So. Yeah. You call your dubs, they call your L's.
Man, so many people in the chat right now. I thought Andrew that you would be traveling, so I should have tried to get you on the show. I apologize. I see you in the chat. Ovally in the chat as well. One quick shout out I do want to make is to a video that is on my channel, and I wish I could take credit for. I will take credit for it being on my channel and funding it, but not for having the idea of it. But Tim7 Houston did a video at the end of last year about if Jojo and Danny could carry for EG, and it's a run-in episode. People should go watch it because it's very prescient, and it's really cool to see that run-in episode end up becoming true. I think it was one of the last episodes we did, so it was pretty neat. Okay, so for folks who want to know how the show works while Mark is pulling folks, this is a call-in show. You want to join the Discord, it's discord.gg/Travis. If you want to join, there's a bunch of stuff that we talk about there. There's a book channel. There's a Genshin channel. But if you join, there's a pleb topics chat and a subtopics chat. If you are a sub, thank you for being a sub. Sync with Discord so that you can get access to subtopics chat. Put your takes in there. We're looking more for takes than questions, so less like what do you guys think? Any advice for somebody who wants to work in esports, and more something like, I think EG is going to crush it at MSI, or that they're going to fail, or I think that Team Liquid needs to rebuild their roster, or so, I don't know, stuff like that. And Mark will pull you into the waiting room. Once you're in the waiting room, just chill there for a bit, and then Mark will come in. Make sure that you're unmuted. You also want to join one of the pleb calls or sub calls channels, so that Mark can actually pull you into the on air or the waiting room, because he can't do that if you're putting your take in and then not joining one of the channels. So thank you to everybody who's been subbing, by the way. Really appreciate that. Trying to rebuild some sub stuff after dropping below quite a number for a bit. But I think we're ready, Mark, if you want to go check.
Yeah, I got some people.
Okay,
you
cool.
ready?
Yes. Okay, off Mark goes to grab that. Thank you to Rav, Rennie the Croc for a year. Omega Diamond Zinc for 3 years. Thank you. Danny Grimm, 26 months. Christabel, 53 months. Good to see you, Julie. Izzdaer, Anonymous Gifter gifted to Skelite, and Anonymous Gifter gifted 25 subs. That's crazy. We'll get some more of those in a second. But first, we've got Fez. Fez, you've been on the show before, right?
I have a couple times.
Yeah, remind me where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile, Alabama. Were you on? I think we had an Alabama person on the show, like the live show, but that wasn't you, right?
No. I was gonna try to make it out of Houston, but work got in the way. So.
I'm sorry. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about that Danny and Jojo were the 4th and 5th best player on their team respectively, and there was nothing wrong with that. But basically my topic is that, essentially, that they were not the best players on their team, but they didn't have to be, considering they have a literal world champion, an LEC MVP jungler, and a world-class, the best native world-class support you could have in Vulcan.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I thought it was pretty cool whenever Inspired stole that Baron and then got the pentakill afterwards. I thought it was really impressive that, we were able to get this LEC mid laner
That play should have never happened.
Set the tone for the entire event. No, okay, go ahead. You want to expand on this a little bit, or you want to just go with it?
Well, I mean, my biggest explanation for it is that, I mean, during the both series, you could clearly see that, both Danny had key moments during the fights, but absolutely got blasted in lane in both series at periods of time. And I mean, a lot of these mistakes are not going to be forgiven at an MSI level, where EG vastly relies on Danny's team fighting for late game. But Danny literally relies on, EG did great drafting this weekend with how they were drafting J4, Tom Kench, and basically a drain tank top or Orin constantly to make sure they were protecting Danny. And then Jojo just didn't have to die with the attention that constantly was done by Inspired. So, I mean, they're great players, and I know everyone's pushing this NA narrative really, really hard, but the biggest thing is that they really didn't have to do much because everybody kind of stepped up their game, and that's that.
Mark, you want to take this first?
Sure. There's like a little bit of truth to it, in the sense that, like, saying worse on a championship team that played well is just like a weird way to phrase it. But like, Danny is not great in lane. It's still. I think there's been a lot of narrative about how much better he's gotten in lane, and he has gotten a little bit better. But you've seen against truly top tier bot lanes and best of fives, they have issues still. And they do spoon feed him. And you heard that being talked about with Inspires, and they need to shove shit in his mouth to make him strong. But when he gets strong, he becomes like the best player in the game, no matter who else is there, kind of. So it's like there's like different scales and times within the game where this might be true. But not like, I don't think it's universally true. So like I do think Danny's team fighting is incredible, absolutely incredible. And that great. And for a period of time, sometimes like, okay, they're not taking good matchups because it's just Zeri and yada yada yada. But then they also just like actually die in lane sometimes. Or like they'll misplay a level 2 all in and die or something like that, you know. And it's not always just him. Like sometimes it's Vulcan making a mistake too. I don't want to make it sound like it's just on Danny. So like I understand that, and like Inspired, I think was like fucking amazing. Impact was fucking amazing this weekend. Um, and so like I understand this perspective where you're like, okay, just like pulling nameplates off. Top and jungle were both huge. Bot lane made some mistakes, and mid was good, but maybe not like the focal point at any point in time. Like I can see the angle that the caller is making, but I don't think I'd agree with it. Just because, like, especially for Danny, he's just so good when he's on. And Jojo was the best laning mid laner in the entire league, all split long, and that continued in playoffs. So even Jojo, while you're saying, oh, maybe he's not the fourth best player on his own team, it's like, well, he still shits on the region in lane, and maybe he has a few more deficiencies outside of laning phase. But like if he's the fourth or fifth best player on the championship team, and he's the best laning mid laner in the league, what does that say about the rest of our pool as well?
Not to mention, it's very strange for, like, not to flame these guys, but like we're not talking about Demonte or Golden Glue on this team. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's really weird to be like, yeah, Jojo was not like the best player on the team or was not near the top, when we're talking about a player who's just got into the LCS like 3 months ago and was able to lift a trophy. Like that is a North American player. It's not some player that was scouted in like LFL and brought over or something. Like the fact that this player was able to actually end up lifting a trophy and was not, it's interesting because I don't even think anybody would argue Jojo was like a liability to his team, right? It's not like, oh man,
like have to play a unique way to
right.
like,
yes, it's not like Inspired just dragged Jojo's ass to the Nexus every game or something like that. And so I just think it's strange to focus on that, and I feel like it tends. I know I'm trying to call you out here, Fez, but I feel like it's part of this attempt to like delegitimize the fact that North American talent were able to lift a trophy facing two teams that have basically been built around the idea of getting players that were from other regions to become residents and then filling in the gaps with more players that are from other regions.
Right.
And so, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I agree, because it's not like people feel like they do this quite as much for a Team Liquid, or let's say 100 Thieves had won, or I bet if C9 won, people wouldn't have done this. Maybe they would for Fudge. Maybe they would. And for Winsome, because it's obvious. But yeah, for like TL 100 Thieves, if they had won the title this weekend, I don't think anyone would be like, yeah, I mean, Abadaga won another, but he sucks. And,
right.
Or not even like you're saying that, but like for TL, like if they won, I don't feel like people would be like, yeah, Bwipo and Santorin are maybe the two weakest players. And I don't even think that, I just picked two names. I don't know who people would make it for, but I feel like it's no surprise that of all the teams that people are doing this to, of recent title teams, it's the one with the NA talent.
Yeah. It's just like it's the goalpost thing, right? Where people are like, NA talent sucks, and then you have a brand new rookie mid laner come in and another in an NA ADC who's played less than a year, and they lift a trophy, and then people say, well, yeah, but like they were the weaker players. You know, it's just it's really bizarre to me to instead look at it and say like, wow, you have these fresh players that, I mean, the pictures that you guys were showing on the analyst desk, Mark, during the opening of the show, where it's like, oh, when Santorin won his first, like this was Danny as a 12-year-old, like at a pool, and like Jojo, like here's his yearbook picture and stuff like that. Like, I think the lesson here should be there is good talent. They are there. People can take risks on them, and it is possible to have happen. And I don't think anybody's saying like, get all these other imported players out of the league now and make way for NA talent, but just the idea that like the best way to do it is to quote, like, again, well, it was not. It was a little bit over a year ago that we were talking about lifting the import rule, you know, and so it's just it's so funny to me.
So some people in chat are saying that we're straw manning the take, and I understand what they're saying. First off, I started this by talking about it analytically and kind of agreeing at certain points in the game. So it's not like I just didn't answer the question. I think what Travis and I are doing more now is saying like, the motivation behind it, because I don't remember there being a ton of conversation with 100 Thieves last year. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember a ton of conversation about weakest player on the team. So that's why I think we're responding to it this way. Though I like, again, I said you might legitimately be able to make this case in some instances. You know, I do think that's, or if people are saying that, I think there's another truth to this angle, which is that the emphasis on NA talent has dominated the conversation to the point that some people that played very well are not getting enough attention, like Impact or Inspired. I do think that's another angle you could take. But again, I think it's also partially like the NA talent is kind of dominating the conversation because it's been such a conversation for so long. So
well, and it's not just
it's pretty nuanced.
And yeah, let me just say one thing. I want to clarify that when I said there is nothing wrong with it, it's exactly that. They are two NA rookies. Like, and the reason why I'm saying it in the way that I'm saying it, just to clarify to chat so they don't lose their damn minds, is that there has been this huge push from people like Karen, Moser, or whatever, and tons of people that I see on Twitter that are like, EG won because of NA talent. No, EG won because they found the right NA talent with the right imports to create a winning formula. That is my point, and there's nothing wrong with that. Will JoJo and Danny be the best we've ever seen? It's very possible. It's literally they're still extremely young, and there's nothing wrong with being the fourth and fifth best player on your team when you have quality like you do on EG on the top side of the map. And like I said, historically, Vulcan has made everybody he's played with look considerably better than they are. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just stating that these players, EG didn't win because of NA talent. They won because they found the right NA talent with the right imports to create a winning formula. That's it.
Yeah. I think that is a fair statement. And I think it is also something where, look, when I look at the way Steve has built his roster, how 100 Thieves has built their roster, I'm not trying to say that teams shouldn't try to build their rosters that way, but I think it is good for the league that we have clear evidence that instead of trying to build your rosters in that way, you can say, hey, let's go grab a really great jungler. Let's go grab like a long-standing, consistent top laner and pair him with two relatively rookie players from North America, and you can build this team that, like, I think if this team does well over time and they can keep this roster kind of consistent, they can easily usurp 100T in terms of fandom and brand building, in part because people like to see stories of native North American talent doing well. And I think this is good for the league. And I do think trying to write it off or like it somewhat undermines, in my opinion, the strength of the league and like the excitement around the league to try to just like write off JoJo and Danny's accomplishment this weekend, which I'm not saying is what you're trying to do, Fez, but I do think some people are doing that because they don't want to be. It's like, oh, good NA talent. It's like the light hitting a vampire. You know, they're just like, no, this is I have to talk about how NA sucks, and it's very funny. Anyway, thank you, Fez, for the call. Anything that you want to say, or anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
I really want to thank Mark for cutting in his vacation time to do this. You know, that's a big shout out for him. But no promoting fake gods, please. Find the right talent. That's my other shout out.
I would say set up the right talent for success, because I don't know. I need to think back to all of Fake God's rosters, but like so often what you have is you have like the other side of this is like those teams. There are players that have been set up for success, and there's a lot of NA talent where you stick them on like a team that's going to be bottom half of the league no matter what, and then whenever they fail to perform and get depressed and look bad and all that stuff, people are like, well, what a letdown. Thank you though, Fez. We'll catch you next time.
Take care.
All right, we're going to take a quick break to talk about Alienware. Thank you to Alienware for sponsoring everything that we do here at TGI. It's been fantastic. Mark is on an Alienware notebook right now. That's how he's able to do the show remotely. It's fantastic to be able to have Alienware resources so that we can make things happen. This past weekend, we were shooting 4K video. We were able to get interviews up and content up on the channel because of the resources that Alienware gives us. And so I know that I talk about Alienware a lot and I beat the Alienware drum, and you guys have heard about this for years, but I just really, really, really do want to remind you folks that they are the backbone of what we do here. And if you like the content, if you like Hotline League, if you like having me able to go out to these live events and make stuff happen, you have Alienware to thank for that. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring us. Alienware.com/Travis. We're working on getting that page updated with some fancy new stuff, so stay tuned for that. And I think pretty soon we will have a neat way for you guys to directly support the show and what I do by purchasing Alienware products in a way that we haven't really done before. So stay tuned for that. Mark, you want to go grab the next caller?
I guess.
Okay. TJ Mackey, thank you for the sub. Bandicoot B, thank you as well. Retro Paint, Matt7389, Cubby, Minitus, Don Nardo. Okay, Timo. By the way, folks, this past weekend, Papa Smithy tried to bully me into giving Cubby money so that he could create documentaries on NA talent for the YouTube channel. And I have to talk to Cubby about it. I don't know how much money it's going to cost, but we will see if anything goes from there. But if I will say that is a good reason to, even if 100T is not running a bunch of NA rookies, be excited about Papa Smithy, because he's trying to force me to give people money to talk about them. Anyway, Snailchip is here. Snailchip, where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm calling from Cedar City, Utah.
Is it Cedar Speed?
Sorry, Cedar City.
Cedar City. Okay, Utah. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I'm a little surprised that my take got pulled. I'm not sure how much there is to actually build off of this, but
what? You're underwriting your own take by immediately upon joining the show?
I'm sorry. I think it's interesting to talk about. I just don't really know how much there is for you guys to weigh in on it.
Okay.
But I just wanted to talk about that right now in the LCS is kind of the first time in a long time, it feels like, where there's actual storyline potential and actual brand identity happening, or forming, I suppose, in the league. Where I feel like this year especially, I think it was in the first half of the split, they did the usual TSM versus C9 rivalry, which I totally understand why we always get that narrative, but I think this year it kind of sucked because Bjergsen just left, and so there's no players on either roster anymore who were around for the rivalry, and so a lot of the time it just kind of feels like beating the dead horse. But then the other side of that is, what storyline do you actually build off of? Because it's not like any of the teams have really built brands for themselves besides the top three, TL, C9, TSM. But I feel it's kind of, if you go and look at all of the teams now, I feel 6 of the teams are pretty good at building an identity for themselves in the league, whereas the 4 that I don't feel are TSM, CLG, Immortals, and Dignitas. And so I just think for the next summer split, I hope that the LCS will build more around EG, assuming EG and FlyQuest are both pretty good next split. I think there's a storyline there between good versus evil, or C9, 100T, and TL have a storyline now of getting 3-0'd by EG, and so there's actual
There's a bunch of stuff to talk about and be excited about, maybe in a way that there hasn't been before. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm tentatively agreeing with you, because I want to see. I think there's more work to be done to really let this stuff occur. I would say it's more as though this past weekend especially has planted the seeds for that conversation, but I am a little worried that EG goes to MSI, they lose a ton, they come back, they're sucking in summer split. You've got C9 and TL sitting up at the top with a struggling TSM, and 100T's hanging out, and I worry a little. I'm not saying that in that situation, there's no storylines to build off of. There's still stuff to talk about, obviously, but you kind of end up in this dead zone where things are kind of rough. Versus the idea of like, let's say EG goes to MSI, does moderately well, better than people expect. And then them and TL, for instance, are neck and neck all split long, and you've got the JoJo versus Bjergsen thing that you can build up off of, and like maybe Hunter T starts to pop back up again. Like there are some potential cool things that will come out of this past weekend. But I think it just sort of depends on how the future goes, because
Right.
like the very disappointing thing would be, like the worst thing to happen now would be EG goes shits the bed at MSI and doesn't make Worlds. That would be a really big bummer, I think, because the potential of that brand and those players, I think, really gets diminished in that world.
Mm-hmm.
I am surprised you're such a negative person. When I pulled this topic, I thought for sure this is Travis's topic about new storylines, EG versus 100 Thieves in the finals, new franchise teams. Franchising was a huge dub. Look at these idiots running the league now, and the withering Cloud9s and CLGs and TSMs. Who needs these ancient orgs and their backwards roster built? I don't know. I thought you would be all.
I just like no. I think that's fair. It's just tough because this is a single data point, right? Like it would be very exciting to make that statement, but like if this does not continue, if it ends up being like an outlier, then
oh boy,
that's going to be really disappointing. And
Travis again saying you can't trust NA talent to make Worlds
No.
after winning spring. Here he goes again.
No, I'm just saying I don't think anyone should guarantee that EG is going to Worlds. Like I feel like all these teams are about to go make roster changes. TSM will try to become more competitive. Maybe 100T won't make roster changes. I don't know what they're going to do. That'll be interesting, actually. I haven't even really thought about that. TL could. Summit's apparently up for grabs. Maybe he ends up over there instead of Bwipo. I've not heard anything. I'm just saying. Like, this league loves to play fucking musical chairs with its players, and one, that disrupts the storyline building, and two, it could end up in a world where these other teams start to look better, and so I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not a negative Nancy. I'm cautiously optimistic. I just don't think that like we're completely sure that we're out of the woods yet. Is I guess the best.
All right, so here's where I'll agree about the concern is the FlyQuest roster from 2020. Though I don't think it'll happen for EG, but they make back-to-back finals, go to Worlds, go 3-3 in a pretty tough group, 2 game off TES, for example, and people are feeling okay about them, and then they just blow up, and then the roster is still kind of the organization is still kind of recovering and trying to find a new identity, I guess, still in terms of like players they want to build around. They still are the good roster, like the team of good, like Snailchip is saying, but like players, I feel like if you bought in for one of those players, they're all gone now. It's only been 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I am more optimistic than most, and this weekend is a huge victory, but everyone was really excited about LS being part of the league until all of a sudden he wasn't. Like, let's put it this way. The league has not been stable, and it does not feel as though people usually make decisions that lead to stability in terms of narratives, in terms of fandom, etc. I am hopeful that we are seeing signs of this stuff shifting. However, if Summit just won MVP and is not going to be in the league in summer, that is a contrary data point to what we just saw in terms of storylines forming. Like, I've talked a lot about roster stability and needing to keep players around and needing to build storylines. What the fuck does it mean whenever you get an MVP player who then potentially is not playing in the league in summer? Like, hello, we had this player show up for 3 months, they won MVP, and then they're gone. And I know people will talk about whether or not they should have won MVP or whatever. I don't care. Like, it's just that's not good for the health of the league. And so I hope that this is I'm hopeful and optimistic and cautiously optimistic that you are right, Snailchip, and that we're headed in a good direction. But I still think there are warning signs, and a lot of the philosophy of the league is still bent around making rapid changes to try to get yourself to Worlds and make as many changes as you think that you can perform as well as Worlds, because people still think that the only key to success is going to be doing incredibly well at a Worlds competition, and the rest of the league will burn down along the way, I guess, as everybody tries to do that. So
Right.
I'm still
Can
worried.
Just to like build off of like what you were saying just a second ago about NA like playing musical chairs with their rosters. I think I presented the take in a way to like kind of using storylines and brand identity almost like interchangeably. I think like one of the bigger problems that the LCS teams in the LCS run into is that a lot of teams like don't really have brand identity, but they do have the storylines. And like I think a good example of this is C9, where I'm a huge C9 fan, so like full disclosure. But I was a C9 fan because of Sneaky, and then Sneaky gets kicked off. And the only reason why I stayed a fan for a while was because of Perks. And because I feel like C9's identity has always been like they're the meme team, or like they're the team that's gonna in the off season make the biggest changes and and then show everyone up. But when C9 doesn't do well or they don't shake things up, what do we actually know C9 really for other than like best international team or like Team Liquid? I feel like Team Liquid and C9, their identity in the league is like they're the championship orgs where no matter what, they're always going to do well. But like TSM was a championship org, then they finished 9th in the split and they don't have Bjergsen. So what do TSM fans actually root for TSM now or root for now? Or like how do they get new fans,
I will say this is the esports problem about not having geolocation, but for at least C9 and TL, you have Steve and Jack. And Jack has a social media team. They're a pretty memey org. They are willing to make risky roster moves. They have promoted NA talent for a while. They were the NA talent machine of any of the orgs, you could say, of the top orgs. Whereas Steve is like the Yankees. He's always going to go out and buy the biggest and best brand name player you can find, and he can just be that, And so if you like supporting a favorite, Steve is always going to have flashy moves for you and stuff. And he's a pretty charismatic person to follow. And I feel like for a lot of these orgs, that is one of the things that can tie rosters together across splits. 100 Thieves, I think, have their brand pretty strong with like their streetwear and influencer lineups,
Yeah.
And I think that's where TSM has failed, with Reggie stepping back and them losing Bjerg. It's just there's like no consistency now to this new group, and so I think while you can't guarantee that the players will always be there, like you can try and do these other things to help build a brand. But I think I still agree with Travis that ultimately it is still players that drive the stories for most things. And so like Jojo versus Bjerg as a budding rivalry potentially is a really cool one, and the longer that they'll stay on these teams, the better, because then it just makes it easier to tell that story if their histories are mostly tied. Like, yeah, Bjerg had his whole time on TSM, but we're talking about TL Bjerg versus EG Jojo kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know this has gone on really long. So just to like last thing I'm gonna say, I agree with that. Also, I think like my only counter to that would be like a team like FlyQuest. They're my backup team, like you were saying before. I love FlyQuest, but no offense to any of the players, I'm not a big fan of any of the players on the team. I just really like their brand. I like that they care about the environment. And so when FlyQuest does well, like I feel really good about it, and it makes me want to support them. And so it's like they can lose any of the 5 players. I'm still going to support FlyQuest because I like FlyQuest, but I can't say that about C9 a lot of the time, or I can't say that about TSM.
Well, I think one of the interesting things about FlyQuest is I think there's a lot of people who appreciate FlyQuest. I don't think there are a lot of people who are fans of FlyQuest. Like, it would be very interesting to see, like, you could build a survey where it's like, which of these teams do you have a favorable impression of? And I bet you FlyQuest would rank pretty high. But then if you were like, which of these teams would you buy a jersey from? I bet you FlyQuest, even though they have very pretty jerseys, not very many people would buy the jersey. And so I think that's one of the unfortunate things that FlyQuest has kind of put themselves in, and that's where I do think you need like roster consistency, some charismatic players, et cetera, is people can be like, hey, I appreciate this brand. It is like, cool, I am happy they're in the league, but it's going to be really hard if you don't have players that people care about for people to actually like invest into the brand and into the team. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Golden Guardian's in a similar place as FlyQuest, by the way. Whereas I think people are probably more positive sentiment on Golden Guardians because they've done stuff like grow NA talent and they've got a clean brand and all that stuff. But then at the end of the day, there's not too many people who are like actively rooting or purchasing Golden Guardians merch or that type of stuff. So we're kind of in that place.
Yeah, that's what I have for Golden Guardians, but go on. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's good. Mark is yawning, so we got to hurry this up. Snailchip, anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, I just want to say last real quick thing. EG, I hope they figure out what being an evil genius actually means. I love EG. I'm really happy they won. But I don't know if they're supposed to be like to talk shit on all the other NA teams or if they're like you know what I mean? Like they're like the evil team, but I don't really know what that means. I kind of hope that they like figure out their identity next split a bit better. Shout out to my friends Jaker and Erwin who listen to the show on Spotify. And they'll probably message me later. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Have a good
also,
one.
I do agree. Snailchip is leaving that. It's Mark. What do you think of EG? Because I feel like they've had a couple tentpole moments where they are like, we're evil. And then I just feel like after that they stop. Like it's a weird situation where I feel like in some ways they're best set up to like build a compelling brand, but I don't actually see them ever really capitalize on that in the most meaningful way.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. Like the Jizuke flamethrower thing was cool. They came in like, we're gonna talk shit, you know, and like they kind of do that. I don't know. It's as good as any other of the brands, right? Like Team Liquid, like what are they? They're a horse and they are water. It doesn't, you know, like there's a story behind it, but it's kind of random.
Well, that's my point. Is that I think evil geniuses is more defined than Team Liquid, horse, water, blah blah blah. And so I think it's been a little disappointing that I have not seen as much out of evil geniuses in terms of leveraging what should be a easier objective in like telling a brand story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The touch grass was a good thing. Someone called that out. It was a funny booth. Yeah, I think that they could always be doing like little evil things, but I also think there's a concern about overplaying your hand, and it's just always like kind of eye rolling or cringe or something.
Yeah, I'm surprised, for instance, that they weren't giving out like evil mustaches at the booth or something like that. Like they're like touch grass is a funny meme, but it's also not necessarily how's that evil geniuses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that'd be funny. You get a monocle or
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say at the start of every split, they should go out and record themselves doing some minor crimes and then publish it, like turning left on a right only turn. You know,
like you're like saying going the wrong way on a one-way street and
no. You know, sometimes there's some intersections and you're only supposed to turn right, like coming out of McDonald's. Like there's like a right.
Oh yeah.
You turn left, and then like one person's on the street, and they turn to the camera and they go, "Live evil, bitches," or something, and then that's the whole.
They did that with Avali a little bit, right? Where they had me kick Kobe's cat or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. Like jaywalking would be a great one.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we can grab the next caller.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Tarav49, thank you for the prime. I think I already got you. Mafia Banan 77. Pocho McPotch. iChemo. Thank you for the subs, everyone. Friendly reminder. Actually, there's a rumor that Twitch is going to cut ad revenue for partners. I don't know if you guys saw the Bloomberg article. So please, before they cut the revenue, send your prime sub to me. Chosen says, Travis negative towards NA must be a day that ends in Y. That's such a funny take because I feel like out of most personalities, I am the one that's most...
You're hella negative, and you're about to out yourself again with this next caller, too.
Oh, boy. Timmychanga is here. Timmychanga, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Jackson, Tennessee.
Jackson, Tennessee. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my hot take is that EG did not prove that NA talent is the future of the LCS. I think it's unfair to attribute the power of pairing the world champion and the LEC MVP with 3 NA players and then turning around and saying it was all NA players. And to put a positive spin on this take, I think that the future of NA talent is really going to be solid brand building, like the last caller talked about, specifically by hiring really solid talent staff such as LS, or by keeping players around for a while like Danny or like the 100 Thieves lineup has done. I think Riot also needs to more heavily collaborate with talent. Just Tyler One. I was really happy to see him, his activities this past weekend leading the show. I think Dom is a really good personality to collaborate with. I think Double Lift and that TriCast is a really good bunch of personalities to get to collaborate with. And as the casual fan base grows from collaborating with all of these talent within the scene and then talent outside of the scene, but as a casual player base, I think you're going to see more eligible pros become available in the scene, and I think that's really the future of the LCS.
So sorry, I feel like we're a little all over the place here. So the take is
let me
go ahead, Mark.
Push this in a direction for where I was hoping this take would go. With the whole, they didn't prove NA talent, yada yada. The question I have for you, Travis, is, do you think that this is in some sense maybe dangerous even for NA talent, that they succeeded and then some orgs that maybe didn't do as much scouting and development, whatever you want to call, for Danny and Jojo? Because there's that tweet that Dom linked about how Peter Dunn was talking about Jojo being back in like 2020, whenever that was, or something. Maybe it was the start of 2021. But like they obviously had him on their radar for a long time. But like, do you think there's any concern that teams just start snatching up random NA talent and slamming them into rosters and be like, great, now be the next Jojo Danny, without any of the same support or development?
I don't understand why you're saying that these teams would start doing that. Isn't that literally what the bottom half of this league does?
It would be done even with more frequency, maybe. Maybe it already happens.
I mean, I honestly feel like that's what people have talked about for a long time, is that like the bottom teams have not always done the best job of building out the infrastructure that they need to create a good talent pipeline, and that EG doing this is showing the value of them building out that talent pipeline over time. And so I'm not really worried about that, because you already have a ton of teams that do that, and some of them do it better than others, but I just don't I don't think that I'm worried about it, because I already feel like that's what's happening. If anything, I'm hopeful that teams start to say, like, let's do what EG did and build out a better talent pipeline. Like, I don't think Team Liquid, for instance, has invested into. They've got Ayla. I mean, I'm not saying that they've got like scrubs sitting on the academy team or anything like that, but like, I don't. They at least they have not tried to tell the story the same way that EG has, if they are doing similar stuff to EG. Well, they don't have like an amateur team, for instance, and stuff. So
Kelsey, I think, makes a good point about how no one really is doing that of the teams that kind of jam NA talent in there. She's saying they run out of money or just never had any, and they kind of jam players in on there and just put on the rookie. Like we believe in NA talent, even though they don't really invest in their systems to be doing that.
I mean, I think
a good example is like High with Golden Guardians, where they like put High with 4 rookie or younger players or whatever it was, and they're like, look, we believe in NA talent. High, now teach them everything they need to know. And I was like, what am I doing here, kind of thing.
Okay, I have gotten my hands on. I have to go find a second source, but I have gotten my hands on the salaries for spring, and there are like the spread is really weird this year. EG is in, I would argue, like the top upper half of salaries, and so I think what's interesting is, let's see. Okay, let me do the math. Okay, I think they are the 4th highest salary in the league right now, for their LCS team. if I'm reading this correctly. Yeah, about that. Depends on how you look at it. It's either third or fourth. But I think that what I'm hopeful is that there are more teams that are sitting around this level, and in terms of cost, and then can kind of come in at around that same level. Meaning, instead of like the Team Liquids that are going out there and just spending a shit ton, what you start to have are teams that are like, okay, we're going to spend some on like an inspired, and let's go try to grab somebody's MVP and bring them over here, and then we'll also have this talent pipeline where we can like bring people up, and do interesting stuff with them. And so what you start to create is like a more mid-level team, and you start to kind of stabilize hopefully the spending that you're doing, because like it would be neat, for instance, I kind of feel like what has happened is that part of the reason you have seen teams like Immortals Dig, Golden Guardians, etc. skew so cheap is that there's this sense of like you're either spending really big to win or you're just not, and you like there's no point in spending somewhere in the mid. But I think that what would be really cool is if you start to see this world where like teams start to realize like, hey, we can create this balanced roster of like good rookie talent attached to like good import talent, and you can kind of have the original vision of what the import will, I think was designed to do back in the day, which was, hey, these are 3 North American players and 2 really great import players, and these guys are going to go win the season and go to Worlds and hopefully perform well. So I think that is more my hope for what the lessons will be here. I don't necessarily worry that people are going to be like, okay, we've assembled 5 randos from Academy and Amateur and go forth and win. I don't. Do you worry the opposite, Mark?
No, I somewhat worry that people like. Part of me wants to acknowledge the fact that Jojo and Danny are strangely good, even for their own like NA talent. Like, you know what I mean? Like Spica and Blabber were maybe the last 2 good ones, and like you're gonna get a couple big hits every year. It feels like that just kind of tends to be the case. Vulcan came out a little bit before them, I guess, or started really doing well a little bit before them. Like there is NA talent. It does bubble up, and hopefully it can be accelerated or find more or whatever. But I also want to acknowledge that like JoJo's a bit of a freak, and he's been on, like, both of them were on the fast track, so to speak, and there is an element of that. But I think winning the title is what made me just want like younger people to aspire to it, which is kind of the angle I took.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think you and I have both talked about it before, the idea that like if finals are TL 100T, it's like, and you're a kid in Idaho that is watching this online, do you really feel like you can go lift a LCS trophy? But kind of the counterpoint to the Jojo Danny stuff is Vulcan. You know what I mean? Like everybody's hard tunneling and trying to be like, well, there's not going to be, you can't just take, Jojo is not an example of this. You cannot just bring in people and expect them to succeed in their first split. But I actually feel like you can look at Vulcan if you want like a more moderate example of North American talent succeeding. Like, guy's been quietly really good for quite some time and has done a whole lot and doesn't get as much attention because he's a support player and all that stuff. But like, he's really good North American talent that was also able to lift a trophy, and like people have invested in him over time and he's done well. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. I think that is what I want, is like to have teams that also have money be promoting the players that they believe in. Like if you were a team that, like for 100 Thieves, if they have Tenacity and Kenvi and Busio or whoever else they think is like actually give those players some shine, as opposed to, I feel like what sometimes happens is like those players then get pushed off into another team that's just not as well positioned, and then they get screwed over. But I also want to acknowledge that like giving them a chance is important, but also don't just start grabbing random academy players and slapping them into lineups or something. But I don't think that's what's going to happen anyways, any more than it already did, to your point.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like, Team Liquid is not going to do that. 100T is not going to do that. Like if you could worry, I guess, that like maybe Immortals would or something, but like I again, like, is that going to be that surprising? I mean, I feel like people have felt that teams like FlyQuest and Immortals and those folks have done stuff like that before in the past, and I don't think there will be a meaningful change. I am not worried. I am not like expecting Cloud9 to be like, JK, we've found 5 randos that we think are all the next JoJo, and we're going to run them, you know? Timmy, I know you wanted us to bring this more into like, let's have Tyler 1 host more stuff and that type of stuff, but I think that's kind of pushing this topic a little too broad. So I think we will have to go on to the next caller. But is there anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
That's fine. I really appreciate you putting on the show. I want to shout out Riot Games. I actually applied for a project management position with, so hopefully that goes through if they're listening. I wanted to shout out Alienware, of course, for hosting the show and or sponsoring this show. I apologize.
You're good.
And of course, you guys for putting on the show every week. I listen to almost all of your content that you put out each week, and I really enjoy it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one. All right, we're going to take a quick break to talk about Grubhub. Guys, we did live Hotline League with Grubhub this past week. It was awesome. Highest production one that we've had. They had like a whole jib camp. You go take a look at it. It's really cool what they were able to pull off with us, and I really loved that they were able to come in. We've worked with them a little bit in the past, but this is the first year where they're really in as a full year-long partner, and it has been fantastic to have them on. So I hope you guys are giving them the love that they deserve. And they sponsor so much of what I do. You know, it's like Hotline League, but they're also sponsoring LCS interviews and all sorts of stuff. So I know you guys love codes, so I will shout out the code that has been active for a bit. Maybe you haven't had a chance to use it. Use code FRENZY from April 18th to May 2nd, all the way through May 2nd, so you still got time, to get free delivery and a digital Hextech chest and key on any orders, and get free boneless wings from Buffalo Wild Wings with an order of $25 plus. So please go check out Grubhub. We love them. There's a link in the YouTube description. Clicking that link is kind of nice because it just lets people know that we're providing value to them, and actually people are using them. But yes, Frenzy, Natural Ninja spamming it in the chat right now. Thanks everyone. Yep, Grubhub is in the chat as well. ! Grubhub if you want that link. Also, we got a scam train going. There's 3 minutes left. Are we going to complete it? Mark is off to grab the next caller. Off he goes.
Before I go,
off he goes.
Random funny thing that the caller said about bringing casual audience or something. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I was learning about demographics from the LCS viewers generally, and I heard that it was something like 90+%, I forget the exact number, are league players, which was a very interesting stat to me. Given that how much people talk about, like, oh, I'm a lapsed player from our audiences and stuff.
Oh, they're active league players, like, you're saying, like they actually play League of Legends.
Yeah, like they've played within the last month. Maybe
Gotcha.
They're not like hard grinding ranked or whatever, but like they're still relatively active, and it makes you look at some of those other things and be like, that makes sense. But that's substantially higher than other leagues. I don't know. I think or other like traditional sports and stuff like that.
Sure.
So, anyways, it was what the caller was saying right at the end there. I was going to bring it up, but it's total tangent.
Off Mark goes to grab the next caller.
Whatever, fuck you.
We got a minute and 45 seconds left on the scam train. Anybody with a Prime sub that can keep this thing alive. Stu Pickles, thank you for the Prime. Street Nerds, thank you for the Prime. Sky Limix, Sir Antoine. We've got George Zulu, who's been subbed for 2 years. Thank you for the sub. Really appreciate it. You can actually hover your cursor over the screen if you want to see the little crown pop up, and that'll tell you if you have a Prime sub. Mr. Cheese, thank you for the 45 months. I should get the anonymous gifter to gift more. If there was a button I could press to make that happen, I would.
I'm back.
Welcome back, Mark. That's a little.
Well, you told me to go. I figured it was urgent.
Izzdaer is here. Izzdaer, where are you calling from? Is that how you say your name?
Yeah, Izzdaer. I'm calling from London, England.
London. You probably appreciate that we're doing the show at a more reasonable time for you.
Yeah, for sure. I usually listen on Spotify, but it's the first time I've been able to actually call in.
Nice. So glad to have you on. What would you like to talk about?
So my take was that Jojo going to MSI in his first split and winning will actually be a buff for him because he's been playing like kind of overconfidently and without fear in a lot of the games we've seen. Unlike the fear that we see some people play with internationally before, and I think this will help him take risks that other players won't have taken usually due to fear of underperforming. So this is going to mean he's going to be super underestimated by other teams, and honestly I think he's just going to turn up and dunk on caps.
Well, first off, thank you to the
European,
anonymous
aren't
gifter
you?
who did press
Yeah.
did come in and sub 25 times. Okay, thank you though. So Jojo's going to dunk on caps. Jojo because he's a younger player, etc. I was having a conversation with somebody at the event who was saying, hey, maybe it's good that we're sending evil geniuses because they don't know they're supposed to lose at international events. And I really did. I like that.
I still have to talk to Izzdaer. Are you a Fnatic fan? Like, why?
No.
Why do you?
I've honestly, even though I'm in EU, I've watched NA the whole time. I keep up on EU, but I was old school TSM fan, and now I've just stuck with watching NA. So,
Well, this is why we have
Okay.
Brexit.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, Mark?
So I was gonna say it was funny because even in the I forget which interview it was. I might have been on stage or afterwards. I was reading, and I think it was Vulcan or someone was like, the young guys need to prepare their mental because what happens at these international tournaments is you go and you scrim Korea and you get 0-6, like 5 times in a row, and you need to find a way to like mentally reset so that you're actually gaining information from this and you're not just booming in scrims over and over and over. And so on one hand, I agree with the caller about the like Jojo and them are going to play confident on stage no matter what, but like I just hope they don't get corrupted by scrims because it is a very real thing for NA teams when they go. They just lose all their confidence even before they take the stage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious if we'll see tweets from them that are along those lines of like scrims are going great, can't wait for Rumble stage or whatever, or group stage, whatever. It's always confusing now. But I don't know. What I do like about this roster is that it's very different. Mark, I'm trying to remember. Is there any time where you feel like we've sent a North American team like this, especially to MSI? Like I know sometimes there's always kind of like this like third team kind of scraped in, like a FlyQuest or something into Worlds, but this is, I feel like, the first time where we've really had such a crazy difference in who we're sending as our team.
We've almost never sent young players, or there's like one in a team full of veterans.
Right.
I mean, I've often complained about how, like, isn't it kind of sad that, like, NA has not sent a Griffin type before, or at least in, like, the last half decade or more. And, like, Griffin was, like, legit, like, 5 rookies, basically, or Damwon when they emerged. But, like, this is the closest that we'll get. Clutch is what Empire is saying is maybe the closest, but to Travis's point, they, like, snuck in as the 3rd seed. So it wasn't like, we like the best players in that region might actually be young players, like. And I will say the times that we did have a young player going with a team full of veterans, like 2021 TSM, Spica was the only one who didn't really play scared. And like you could see, like you and I talked about that a lot. It was like the plays where TSM was aggressive, it would be like Spica was the only one. So
right.
Yeah, I do think this is abnormal for NA.
And I think also it's abnormal specifically because of how Jojo plays, right? He's been really aggressive and fearless in loads of his plays, loads of his tweets, I think even more so than some of the other young players we've sent. So it's not just like a rookie, it's this aggressive, outgoing guy that I think can really just play with no holds barred.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's not just that, it's also just the way the team plays. Like, they're very proactive. I mean, like, there's been a lot of conversation in the past on, like, it was the Team Liquid thing, right? Where everybody was basically like, Team Liquid just plays really boring and safe, and then they just wait for the other team to make a mistake, but then you send them internationally, and like there's just a lot less mistakes for them to capitalize on. Where I really like that EG played this weekend very all gas no brakes. Like they just keep going and going. And maybe that will all fall apart at MSI, but I also think what's kind of nice is like I hope and I expect that people are not over expecting from EG, right? Like it's one thing whenever you send Team Liquid and you're like, we've got Core JJ and Bjergsen and we've got all these amazing players, Bwipo, et cetera, et cetera. And then they don't do well. It's like, oh God, this is very frustrating. But with EG, it's like, I hope everybody just kind of has the idea that they're there to really learn a lot and hopefully have some good plays, and nobody should really be expecting them to maybe make it to finals or something. I mean, I would just like to see them do better than G2. Like, I'm really happy that they are in that same group because I think it's really neat that we'll get to just have those guys fight it out a ton, and that is a better, in my mind, that's the better thing to really test EG on, is like, how can you do against G2? Like, I think that is the story I am most excited about for MSI at this point in time.
And
Mark?
we know Impact's better than Broken Blade, right?
I mean, I guess we'll see. Mark, any other thoughts on EG going to MSI?
No. I mean, I'm kind of confident. I feel like I'm confident in they won't embarrass us way. Not in like a, here we go, this is our time, we're gonna win MSI. Like I don't know what a North American team could look like to make me feel like that though. And I was pretty hot on EG in playoffs, and even towards the end of the split a little bit. Like I think I had a fair amount of their players on the All-Pro ballot. I think I had Jojo, Vulcan, and Danny and stuff. So like I'm relatively confident that they'll do well. Just like as long as people understand that, like, well for me means getting out of Rumble and then groups and then like losing a best of 5, I
mean,
like
what is definitely true is that at some point during MSI they will beat G2 at the end of the day, and then the next day they will lose to LCO at the start of it, because that is just the most North American thing. There's no way that won't happen.
I feel like the ways that they embarrass us are, yes, losing to a minor region when it's really important, or losing when it matters and winning when it doesn't because now the weights are off.
Yes.
Like those are the kind of embarrassing things that I feel like wouldn't happen to EG. I feel like, they don't feel like the kind of team that's gonna get spooked on stage, because heading into playoffs, I was even saying this, like, do Jojo and Danny feel like the kind of guys who get to, like, because everyone's like, oh, playing in front of the crowd for the first time in a long time. They're going on that. And I was like, do they seem like the kind of players who are going to get scared of a crowd? And I never thought Jojo or Danny ever seemed like that. Like, Danny was making huge plays in his first playoff series. Like, he doesn't seem shaken by pressure. Jojo's confident as hell. Like, I think it'll be true there as well at MSI, that, like, the moment won't get to them.
Yeah. By the way, just random question, Mark, but are there many other instances of players like Danny who are not great in lane, but then amazing out of lane? I feel like it's normally the opposite, right? Where you have a player that's great in lane and then they get into team fights and they start flopping.
Sneaky in lane, lull.
Oh, yeah. That's the obvious one.
That's the obvious one from NA. I feel like Deft, like at points in time, you could argue, depending on support, a little bit Teddy, yeah. Like there are Berserker as well. Like there are players who are more team fight dominant than lane dominant. I think based off what was happening in playoffs, that was not just, oh, I'm not lane dominant. It was also like, I'm kind of getting shit on a little bit in lane by like some people. So like it is a concern, but it is pretty common. Reckless was that way as well. Not particularly lane dominant a lot of the time. It is.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of players that just would not be dominant in lane, but they wouldn't necessarily like lose lane, and I think that's what's been fascinating to me.
Danny, is interesting in the sense that he feels like the most extreme version of this like prototype player that you've seen in a long time. Where it's not just, oh, I'm not great in lane and I become a monster in team fights. It's like, I'm pretty sus in lane, but then I'm gonna absolutely 1v9 the game if you give me any fucking gold.
It's like go 0-4 and then finish 10-4 or something like that.
Dude, it was so funny. We were showing his playoff series like stats, and he had like 3 deaths a series, but all the deaths would be like in the first 7 minutes of the game, every single one, and they just wouldn't die. Like in the TL series, I think his total KDA was like 10, but each of the games started with a death. It was or something like that. It was so funny.
There's somebody who's with him in lane. Who, maybe we're putting all this pressure on Danny. Maybe what we should be looking is the person who's sitting with him next the whole time in lane. And once he can get away from that guy and get into these team fights, he starts popping up.
True. Once the ankle braces that are Vulcan are shed.
Izzdaer, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, just shout out to you guys. Hopefully you do it at this time more often. And shout out to Grubhub. Actually, they need to start making your codes work on Just Eat, which is what it's called over here, so that we can use it too.
Nice. Well, from what I know from large corporate environments, it's very easy to have promo codes transcend all sorts of different regions. So hopefully we'll have that soon. Either way, thank you so much, Izzdaer. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
I thought of the perfect metaphor for Danny, and it's a bit of a boomer metaphor, but I think people still get it. Saiyans in Dragon Ball Z get substantially stronger when they have a near-death experience. Like, if they get really fucked up in a fight and then they, recover, the next time they're going to be way stronger. That's Danny. Like, him dying in lane is, the near-death experience. Like, oh, shit, is the game boomed? And then they fucking get him out of lane phase. He starts farming Krugs. And then, the next time he shows up, he's just actually fucking crazy.
There's also, you can, maybe a less perfect version of that is Hutao for a Genshin reference.
No, it's totally different. You clearly don't understand Dragon Ball Z.
I mean, I don't. Why don't you get the next caller?
Travis, if you can't be a boomer and get the references, but you're also too old to get the young kid.
Okay, I moved Mark into the other room. Okay, so, Anonymous Gifter, thank you for the 25 subs. A Cordial Berry, thank you for the Prime. We got Silmer, thank you as well. But Anonymous Gifter, assuming you're the same person, thank you for the 50 subs. That is very generous of you.
What references do you bring if you can't bring old anime or new anime references? You're useless.
LooterJoe is here. LooterJoe, where are you calling from?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. Nice. I assume you were at the event?
I definitely was. It was awesome.
Nice. What did you think of it? Any highlights?
Definitely the Danny Pentakill just being there live. That was pretty epic. And then the whole Grubhub experience. Yeah, I mean, it was just great all around.
Nice. Did you get a chance to meet anybody or take pictures or anything?
No one specific. Just going to all the booths really took a lot of time. But it was good.
Nice. Well, what do you want to talk about?
So my take is that after Summer Split, 100 Thieves needs to blow up the team.
Oh, okay. But, so we gave them the chance to go through an extra split, but then they lost in the finals, and it's time to take their heads. Go ahead.
Not all of their heads. Mainly, they need to build around closer, and they need to reset. I think. I feel like. Huhi and FBI, sometimes they perform really well in the regular split, but when it comes to playoffs, both last summer split and spring split, they have just really underperformed. Abadage is not consistent, and you really can't count on him. And really, who shined this playoffs was Closer and Someday. I think with the way Papa Smithy set up the team. I think they have a lot of young talent that can come up, and I don't know. I just think this team is good enough to maybe squeak out a third place and go to Worlds, and then, they're not going to do well, I'm assuming, and then they kind of rebuild from there.
So you would keep Someday and Closer and boot everybody else?
I'd mostly want to build around Closer because I feel like
maybe not even Someday.
Someday sort of overperformed in this playoffs, and I wouldn't expect for him to continue to do that. If he does, then maybe you look at keeping him. But when you have someone like Tenacity, which they kind of showed off throughout the playoff series and had him as the sixth man. They really showed something there when they had Tenacity and Busio walk out on stage with the team for that final.
So you think that was a threat to the other players on the stage?
And they did not perform. So, I mean, they have the players there waiting.
Okay. And you would do it between spring and summer. So between spring and summer, you would have only closer come back, and you'd have 4 new players.
No, my take is after summer.
After summer, okay.
Yes.
So do you keep all 5 players through summer?
I think so. Like I said, I think this team is good enough to squeak out a third place, finish to make it to Worlds. But I mean, and that's a maybe. And especially if they don't, yeah, you definitely blow it up. But I just don't think they're the future. And I think 100 Thieves, they had some days for so long. They've kind of bought this team from the Golden Guardians. I feel like they need to develop a brand around their star player, which is closer, and bring in a lot of new young talent, and maybe like a hotshot ADC from somewhere. I don't know, but it's got to change. I think.
I don't think hotshot is playing league that much these days. Okay, no. I'm gonna give you a counter hot take to your hot take, which is, as long as this team can make it to finals or even top 3, they should not make any changes. Like, indefinitely. Like, I don't care if this team is constantly, like, if they never win again, but they're constantly at 3rd or 2nd, you should, and even if they don't do well at Worlds, you should just not make changes. I think so many people expect that, like, optimize for Worlds results, when in fact you should optimize for North American results, and it is incredibly dangerous to try to make changes to a roster that is, like, consistently going to get you to finals, or the finals weekend maybe is a better way of putting it, and then you make changes and you're hoping that you're going to do better at Worlds with these changes. I think that that's kind of a fool's errand at this point in time, and so that's kind of my hot take, is like, keep players if they get along well and if they can bring you decent results, and by decent I mean top 3, keep that roster together.
I say blow it all up right now. You lost in finals. How good are you?
What 4 players do you replace them with, Mark?
Any 4.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Thieves Academy up. Fucking embarrassed. No, I think if they make Worlds, like this, there's a scenario where you blow it up if they totally just suck in summer. Like that's a time that I think it would make sense. Presuming that, they're paying these guys a lot of money. If they just go out there and lay a turd, like, hey, head's got to roll kind of thing, because you can't just pay people shitloads of money and get bad results. Fair enough. If they make Worlds, like, maybe there's someone you can look at for optimizing, if there is someone who's drastically underperforming or something. But otherwise, I kind of agree with Travis. Like, these players seem to get along pretty well. They just made a finals. They won the one before. If they make another finals, which is really not out of the question, it feels really premature to start talking about roster changes when, they got shit on in the finals, but I don't think that they played up to their potential at all. And this is not to take away from the EG, because I feel like anytime you do one of these, they didn't show up, they underperformed, people assume you're saying that the other team didn't deserve it. I'm just saying that this 100 Thieves lineup, all split long, had really hot and cold games where sometimes they just looked like ass and sometimes they looked incredible. And even in the TL series right before it, 2 weeks ago, they looked like ass for 2 games and looked great for 2.5 games. So they went out there and laid an egg. And if you just can't count on the team to perform well, maybe you do need to look at what you can do to further optimize your team. Everything is on the table for that, though, not just any roster changes.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit different if all your, let's say in spring and summer, you just go and you're like, wow, if Avadage was not on that team and they had a half decent mid laner, then they would be doing so much better. Like if there's a clear cut individual on that team that is holding them back consistently, then sure, like make the change there. But I don't think like I know Abadagi had bad games this split. I know their bot lane had bad games this split, but like I don't think that there's anybody on that team that you can say like that individual is holding the whole roster back, or like denying them from winning. You know, like they lost as a team on Sunday. They did not. It's not a single individual that stopped them from winning. So I don't know. I hate that the answer is always blow up a roster. You know, TSM, sure, blow up the roster. But whenever you have a team that's performing well, like I really disagree with it. I think it's unhealthy for the league. I think that there's somebody in the chat earlier said fans don't want NA results, they want international results. Well, guess what? Your chances of getting international results are very slim. So don't risk losing NA results for like the slim shot of international results, because we've been playing this game for years, and all that we've done in North America is rotate players constantly and lose fans because of it. And it's not a good game to play. Like and also increase salaries at the same time and lose out on native homegrown talent. Like it's just, I'm not saying give up on international performance, but I'm saying don't just play musical chairs in the hopes that you're going to get a team from quarters to semis one year. You know, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. LooterJoe, thank you so much for the call.
Absolutely.
I maybe we'll agree with you. Maybe you can call back in at the end of summer whenever Mark and I are like, fuck, we need this 100T roster's doomed.
We
reset
will see.
it. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah. Shout out Alienware, Grubhub, and shout out to the LCS for coming to Houston and putting on a great show.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, bye.
All right. We got one more caller to go.
1.5 more callers. I have confirmed with Emily Rand on Twitter. She'll be hopping on after the last caller to discuss some NA.
We've got one caller and a mystery guest to appear after this caller. We won't disclose who at this time, but we have a mystery guest. Okay. Thank you to Bowsican, Undead Misfit, and Cap'n Coconut for the subs. And I think I already got you somewhere, Alex, but just in case, there you go.
Travis, we have perfect timing on the next caller.
Okay. Kito is here. Kito, is that how you say your name?
Yeah.
Where are you calling from?
Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Tanzania?
Yeah.
Whoa. That is, we have not had a caller from Tanzania
That's a
before.
first.
Yeah, because you guys fucking, all the shit's terrible time for me, man. It was the first time I can fucking catch that shit.
What time is it where you are?
It's like midnight right now.
Yeah, it's 10 p.m. for me. So I can imagine.
Listen, just wake up early. Anyway, what do you want to talk about?
Bro, I had to stop watching because you were smacking on, you just eating on the, I couldn't deal. I'm sorry. But so C9, this is they are fucking up crazily if they do this summit thing where they like move Fudge to the top lane. If the what is it? If the roster is Fudge, Blabber, Copy presumably, and then Berserker and Sven, I think is what they said, or like what the rumor mill shit. Then that shit's gonna flop crazily. Like I don't know how you can convince me that you're getting rid of your strongest player and then potentially getting moving in the weak ass shit, and like you're gonna the ADC you benched is gonna be a better support for your Korean. I don't know, but that's my take.
Could you sum your take up very shortly again for us, really quickly?
How'd you not get it, dude?
I mean, I kind of got it, but I just want to hear it again because I feel like it's a lot of the caller starts a sentence and then doesn't finish it and just finishes it with the word
goes to
shit.
the next sentence because who needs the capper? You got it. C9 fucking up. That's the take right there.
What do you think they should do, Kito? Do you think they should just not make any roster changes?
I mean, probably it's better than what they doing now, because like I just don't I don't know who you can convince that the proposed shit is gonna be stronger. Like, I'm not saying like they limped out in playoffs, but like everybody limped out in playoffs. Like, it's not like but unless you're EG, like everyone sucked dick. So like I don't see, like I feel like it's better to try and support your strengths than it would be to just blow this shit up and then do some musical chairs and tell me now this team's gonna be even better for Worlds.
Mark, do you feel like in LCS playoffs, unless you were EG, everyone sucked dick, and so you should not make changes?
I mean, doesn't the record speak for itself? 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. Like, did the C9 series look that different from the 100 Thieves series?
No.
Exactly. So he's got a point.
Okay. I'll let you dive
Why?
in first because I'm still
I was
processing.
just saying, you look like you're struggling. I'm like 95% on the same page actually with the caller. Maybe I'm not able to be quite as eloquent, but I definitely agree that it feels there's almost no reason I can get behind making the changes that are proposed outside of the actual 5 players on the lineup hate each other in some capacity, or like one of them is like Summit's just like, nope, I'm not playing here again. I'm going back to Korea. Go fuck yourselves. You know, like maybe that's the energy, and there's like no reason to try and keep them around. But otherwise, if the 5 players are not the ones who are like, yeah, this team sucks, I hate it, or you know, like Blabber and Summit want to kill each other, or you know, like some crazy shit like that, like I'm surprised to see this experiment just called off after one split not working, but still having periods of time where you're the number 1 team in the league and whatnot, you know, like I will say the only part that I kind of get behind is keeping Berserker around. If you are going to blow this roster up, not that I think Sven is bad or even necessarily worse than Berserker, I just think Berserker is not near his ceiling yet. And as you already saw from like Double Lift's rankings and some other people's rankings of AD carries and their power ranking them in the regular season, you can make the case that he's the best AD carry in the league. I didn't personally buy that, at least in terms of performance for me, but that was also because I felt like he was hampered by his support.
Hey, you think Sven's gonna be the guy to really bring his shit out of him?
I mean, that's a fair question about who you're supposed to be pairing with him right now. Is it Sven? I don't know. I mean, Sven might get a green card and they won't take up an import slot. I don't know if they should just try and pay the dollar bills for Ayla or what. But I'm a big believer in Berserker. He is like superstar. He is like, he could be your Danny. He can be carrying your ass in playoffs and stuff. Like, just get this guy some fucking help for the love of God. And maybe Sven can do that. There's been some successful swaps from AD carry to support. Core JJ did it. He did it from mid lane. You know, like support role swaps can be good. So I don't hate the idea, but blowing up the rest of the roster, I'm not down with.
Would you keep Fudge mid, Mark?
I mean, I wouldn't change this roster. I think you can question the reason for the initial role swap if you're willing to give up after 3 months. Like, why did you put him mid then anyways? If it was just like some random roster shenanigans to get Summit on the lineup, which feels like kind of fucked to go hamper a player's development for 3 months and whatnot. You know, like if he wasn't like more committed to being the mid laner, it seems like he just accepted it to stay on the team or something. I don't know, because they were getting Summit or whatever. But yeah, if like Summit is just piecing out and you can't keep him around, I don't know what you can do, but I don't like blowing up the roster if it's like a managerial or performance-based decision.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like blowing up the roster either. I do think there's some weirdness around keeping Fudge mid, because if the idea is keep the lineup except for swap support. You're in a weird situation where you're keeping Fudge mid, but then I also feel weird about, getting rid of Summit. Obviously, we've talked about this a lot. I just think it's really weird. It's a very odd situation, and I know I've said this a million.
Sven is still an import technically, right? Or did he get a green card?
I think he's an import. I don't think there's been any news that he's gotten a green card. So
yeah, I mean, presumably then you kind of know what the plan is at least. If they're willing to be trying him out, then you know that there's at least an import slot opening up. So whether that becomes his or a mid laner's or a top laner's, it does seem that to indicate that at least one import slot is opening if he's considering role swapping to support,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will say I just think it's bad for the league. I know I say that a million times, but I really want us to I hope that the new commissioner, this is one of her priorities, is to stabilize the rosters, because it's just insane to me. Anyway, Kito, sorry that we were staying up late. Sorry that I was smacking my lips. I will definitely, hopefully, have you on again in the future. Anything you want to shout out before we bring on our surprise special mystery guest?
Nah, that was it. It's C9 shit is weak and it's sad, but yeah, thank you. Shout out Grubhub. When I was in the States, they got me food. Shit was cold. But all right, thank you guys.
Have a good one.
See you.
By the way, I want to shout out the Grubhub guarantee. Grubhub guarantee. If you do get your food and it is late, they will make it right for you. That caller. Anyway, shall we grab our special mystery guest?
Yeah, let me get her.
Hello, Emily.
Hello.
Where are you calling from?
Culver City, California.
Culver City, California. Hey, that's pretty close to me and Mark. What would you like to talk about on the show?
Not Mark right now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What would you like to talk about on the show?
Right? So yeah, I just wanted to, because I've seen people taking this out of context or not listening to the rest of what I said after making a very strong statement on broadcast. I'm not walking back that statement, by the way.
Emily drops one F-bomb and everyone loses their minds,
I did want to add some context to it because I feel like people are taking maybe the wrong thing from it. And it's that I think scouting in particular in North America has been, with some exceptions, obviously, pretty rough. And I would like to advocate for better scouting for North American talent, and then additionally, better scouting for talent coming in from other regions as well. And the reason why I got so mad, and the reason why it was really cool to see Jojo win, is because he's a Canadian mid laner, right? And so it was really cool to see, people have been talking about him for a really long time. It was cool to see him come up the system and succeed with, again, like really good staffing, really good coaching at multiple levels, and then also like a really good plan around how this team was going to play. Because North American mids have traditionally, swapped away from the position just to get spots on academy teams, not even LCS teams. So yeah, I wanted to point that out because I feel like people are kind of just taking it and being like, let's plug in all NA mids. And that's not the case. I think any player coming off of the ladder in NA is obviously going to take a lot more time to develop. And this isn't just my take. It's stuff that I've talked about with North American coaches. And that's where EG really deserves rightful credit, right? For being able to do that, being able to take players like Jojo and Danny, and have them succeed within the system that they have.
Random question. Did you see that the thread got taken off Reddit?
Oh, no, I didn't.
I think it did. I went back to like look at it the next morning, and I couldn't find it. So I think it got pulled down because I wanted to see the Reddit comments.
Yeah, I was too afraid to read it, to be quite honest. But this is just something I've seen like kind of across the board where people are taking the North American talent thing too far. And I'm not sure if people are. I actually haven't seen a lot of like the other part of the argument is I haven't seen a lot of people saying that JoJo's gonna go and destroy people at MSI, or like I haven't seen people saying that EG are gonna win MSI. Maybe those takes have just been off of my timeline, but I also don't see like I've seen the response where people are like, hold it back, bring it back, have a measured take on EG's win, but I haven't seen the take that they're responding to. So maybe I just haven't seen all of the quote unquote EG hype for MSI.
I think his shit talking, people have not followed NA, and so like when Yanko seemed pretty down with it, but there was also a clip of Yankos reacting to it and stuff, and like I think for a lot of European fans, they're starting to get exposed to just how brash he is in a good way, but they don't get it, and so they're just like, really, he's like shitting on Chovy, like how fucking dare he insult Chovy, this fucking rant, like people were just. They were very salty about some of his words, I think, less so than like people coming out of the woodwork to predict EG to win shit now.
Yeah, so a lot of people who don't watch LCS have never heard of Jojo Pyun, did not expect Evil Geniuses to win because they've like barely heard of them and they've never gone to Worlds or anything. And they're just like, how dare this random player talk about my caps?
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, in fairness, when I interviewed him at the beginning of the split, people had the same reaction when I quoted him saying, like, oh, the two top laners in the world are you and Chovy, and he was just like, yes. And the responses to that were similar, so.
And that was before he
played in LCS proper.
What was the tweet that you made about Chovy this past week?
He said, don't compare me to Chovy because I actually won something or
whatever. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. That was a good one.
It's so good. Like, I'm sad because I know that rather than people being like, haha, this is great, if EG does bad at MSI, instead people will be like, this guy needs to shut the... like, no, it's no fun allowed, if the team doesn't do well, but I don't know. I'm really hopeful that he'll at least make enough plays that, like, it kind of helps back up some of the stuff that he said. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, I think to something someone said in chat, Tim mentioned that like he was also getting super hyped up before having results, and so I think a lot of people from other teams, even in NA during that time, were using against him, like Travis. Love talking about how much Tim was hyping up.
Because Tim's okay. Here's the thing.
He reveled.
I love Tim. I've worked with him a ton, and I love Run It, and I wanted to do. Just so everybody knows, I wanted to do a celebratory Run It for this week, especially because Mark doesn't have time to do a blame game. And I was shot down by both our editor and Tim. So I just want to let people know that. But secondly, I think what was weird to me was that Tim's Twitter just became like a fucking... like out of nowhere, Tim, who had previously been like, here's some interesting stats, here's some interesting predictions, here's some interesting content, just became like a fucking EG JoJo simp account where I was just like, what is happening? Like, this guy, like, anytime JoJo's playing and like that EG would lose, Tim would be like, it's okay, JoJo, we'll get him next time, you're amazing, we all know JoJo's the best, did anybody see JoJo get that kill? JoJo Pyun for, I'm just like, what happened? I have no idea what happened to Tim where he just like became like, does JoJo and EG have this? Maybe this is how they're evil. They've got blackmail on him. They've got dirt.
No, you don't know the meta. This is what you do in pro sports. If you're like a local reporter, you will just like try to become best friends with someone before they become a superstar. Like, well, who's that reporter who basically just sucked on LeBron James all the way up until being like a respected reporter, because like him and LeBron became close, and so like anytime you wanted to report about LeBron, you like this guy was going to be the one to get it. Yeah, Windhorst or whatever his name was. That's what's happening. Like in 2 years from now, when JoJo's the GOAT, who is he going to want to talk to? You talking shit about him? Me talking shit about him? No, he's going to Tim. He's doing content with Tim. Tim's going to overtake you as the best league content creator.
Well, that's the highest compliment you have ever given me in my entire career, Mark. Thank you.
Pretty sure a reporter did that with Double Lift too.
Oh, shit.
Okay, like here's February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. Tim Seven Houston writing a love letter. The way Jojo Pyun plays, he won't go down without trying everything he possibly can. In a game like that one, that means he'll likely have a couple of ugly-looking deaths. Don't confuse that to mean he's playing poorly. It's similar to players like Whippo or Hillsong. Yeah, it's just funny to see. I'm happy for Tim because he's one of the top comments in the Reddit post-match thread was like, Tim Seven Houston vindication tour or whatever. It was just, I don't know. It's great. It's great.
I also just I went on Google and I did an advanced search for Tim Seven Houston Jojo Pyun. So like all tweets about including the word Jojo or Jojo.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Tim Seven Houston, and it just keeps scrolling.
Yeah.
I can just keep going. It doesn't end.
It's so funny. It was a huge. I think part of it was a huge tonal shift for Tim too, because he went from like never seeming like Mr. Fandom, and then all of a sudden he just became like the world's most biased personality. It was just, I don't know where it came from. Anyway, all right. I think that is the show. We are going to roll into Resin Refresh now, which is the Genshin Impact podcast that Mark and I do. And Mark has presumably convinced you to do the show for us, Emily?
Yeah.
Okay, so Emily's going to stay on for Resin Refresh. Mark, anything you want to shout out before we close out Hotline League? Mark?
No, I don't.
Okay. Wow, that was great.
I want
Emily.
to shout out Portugal. Had some port wine last night. Shout out Espresso. The end.
I love that the lighting is making you look like you have gray or purple hair now. It's fantastic.
I don't get it.
Emily, any shout outs or plugs before we take you into Resin Refresh?
Shout out to Bonnie, who made that meme that you're using for my image.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyway, yeah. Shout out to the broadcast team I worked with this past weekend. It was really cool. It was my first live event with that kind of crowd, and it was a really awesome experience.
Shout out to Grubhub for allowing us to do live Hotline League. I thought that was super cool. And thank you. Shout out to everybody I met this past weekend. After the Grubhub Hotline League was done, I was out in front of stage for like an hour taking pictures and meeting people and just talking to them, and it was super cool after all this time to get to see folks again in person. So thank you to everybody who came up and said hi to me, and I'm sorry if anybody was looking to say hi and I had to run off somewhere or something, but it was pretty cool. That's it for Hotline League. Mark, are we doing this again on Monday?
I'll be back by Monday, so we can.
Okay. Well, then we'll have another episode on Monday. Stay tuned. Stick around for Resin Refresh, the Genshin Impact podcast, and we'll catch you all next time.